This is utterly lawless. This now approaches a banana republic lawlessness. I mean, instead of it, the only difference is that here, when you get presidential decrees, it's done on a conference call instead of from the balcony of the presidential mansion.
Hey now, Charles Krauthammer there last night on Brett Baer talking about the Kathleen Sebelius. We got new rules now. It's a banana republic, so we just make up new rules as we go on. Welcome to the Armstrong and Getty Show.
I noticed that in the House Oversight Committee hearing re-Obamacare yesterday, I believe, it was practically empty. And I think America writ large is getting a little tired of the TV show. On the other hand, for those of us who actually pay taxes and are going to have to live with this stuff, there's craziness happening. Still, crazier craziness. And we haven't forgotten about it. And Craig, the Obamacare lawyer, joins us. We've got a link to Craig's website at armstrongandgettyradio.com if you want more information on the stuff he's talking about. This is what he does. Hello, Craig.
Oh, by the way, we got to mention
Good morning, guys.
Thanks for coming in. I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yesterday. The Washington Post named You Can Keep Your Doctor, period, the lie of the year.
It was PolitiFact.
The lie of the year.
Yeah, we've got that.
President selfie with the lie of the year.
That is unbelievable. The lie of the year.
Let me give you the signs for the lie of the year. Oh, that's your sign language lie of the year.
That is
we'll
incredible.
Get to that. Yeah, stunning indictment. So, Craig,
yes,
let's
sir.
begin with the out of nowhere, surprising and confusing Kathleen Sebelius changing the rules yesterday. What happened?
Yeah, well, you know, our low information congresswoman likes to tell us that we could pass the law so you can find out what's in it, but that does us no good when they write new laws as they go. So yesterday, a conference call was held by the federal administrators in which they, I guess you could say, passed regulations, but more so just made pleas and groveled. They asked insurers to do 4 things. One of those things was go ahead and accept payments as late as December 31st when they were only going to be required to accept payments as late as December 23rd.
To start insurance on January 1.
To start right on the 1st. And then they went ahead and furthered that request and said, you know, and if you would please do so, we would like you to actually accept payments well into January if possible. And one insurer did come out and say, we'll take payment as late as the 8th. A first thought I had on that is, how would you like to be a shareholder at one of these insurance companies that are now going to be insuring people that have not paid for those policies in the month of January?
Well, how nobody can understand how any of this could possibly work.
It can't.
Her new guidelines. How could that possibly work? You call up your insurance company and say, well, what would you say? What would they say back? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and the one thing that bothered me about the Fox panel last night on Brett Baer's show, and I got to tweet at Brett or something, is that Juan Williams kept saying, well, the insurance companies are fine with this. They're not yelling. They're cooperating. Well, that's because they received an enormous bribe, as we've discussed with Craig, that if they take losses, taxpayers will bail them out. Please, somebody point out why they're being so cooperative and smiley. Anyway, what else happened?
Yeah, they're all the way down this rabbit trail. They're stuck. Right, I mean, there's not much they can do. The two things that to me struck me as really undoable in January is, one, they're going to say, hey, if the new drug on your new plan doesn't happen to be covered exactly the way your old plan was last month, we're going to ask insurers to go ahead and just cover that drug for a transitional period, which they're not going to be able to do. There's just no way they can do that. And the second one was...
and this to me was the real fantasy land. Go ahead.
If your doctor that you see is out of network, if the doctor that you had in December is not in our network, which we know there's a very strong likelihood that's possible, we're going to ask that you go ahead and treat that doctor as if that doctor were in network for a transitional period of time.
That's to help with the whole lie of the year. You can keep your doctor, period.
Yeah, that's to try and soften the egregious blow that will be. And this is totally unworkable.
So is your doctor just supposed to, on his own, say, well, legally, I'm not supposed to treat these people, but I guess was just told by the Secretary of Health and Human Services that I should, so I will. I mean, is that what they're just suggesting that he do?
What they're suggesting is that they're going to put the doctor and the insurance company in a very awkward situation because insurance companies have rules for how they reimburse doctors that are out of network.
Right.
And typically that reimbursement level could be half of what they're reimbursing a doctor who's in their network. So now you're going to have the doctor and the insurance company fighting about, well, how much payment will you take for this patient? Will you go... it's going to have to be a case-by-case basis, patient by patient, and it's going to make the insurance company and the doctors look like the bad guy.
Oh, I got you. That way you can blame the doctor. Hey, we opened it up. Your doctor could still see it. It's his choice.
Exactly.
Well, I'd almost have to write this out to get it in the right order, but the situation we're looking at is you have the many, many, many people who got the front end of the website going, so they applied, but they have no idea if they have insurance at this point. You have people applying who can pay till the 31st of this month or maybe beyond. There's a request to the insurance company that they say okay to that. Those people showing up to doctors who may or may not be in or out of the network and may or may not be willing to cooperate with whatever their status is. Having people who show up saying, I haven't got my card yet, I think I'm insured, asking for drugs that may or may not be paid for by the company they may or may not have a policy with.
You've got it, Joe.
People get sick in January.
Right. Which is all kind of, funny and an interesting political conundrum, except for when I picture, like, my wife showing up with our kid with a fever.
Right.
I mean, that's
or
just
some 75-year-old who's having trouble breathing.
That's brutal.
God dang it.
And you'll have a bureaucrat step back and say, well, now, wait a minute. We opened up the networks. We opened up the formularies. We allowed the insurance companies to do this and take us. They're going to do as fast as they can. They're going to point their fingers at the insurance companies. And
I don't think it's going to work.
I hope it doesn't.
Well, what does that mean you don't think it was going to work? What will happen?
In terms of voters, I think when the Obama administration attempts to point their fingers at the insurance companies and say, "Oh, we asked them to change these rules. They had 2 weeks' notice." I think number one at that point, and Craig, you tell me if I'm wrong. Bribe them as you might. I say then the insurance companies yell.
Well, I don't know if that makes any difference. I think especially low LIV, low information voters, Obamacare has happened. You don't know what it is, but you know it's happened, and now you can't go to your doctor.
Yeah, that was going to be the second one of my...
That's all you need to know.
My predictions.
And on that topic, I was with a couple insurance companies this week going to final enrollments for January and February 1, and... one insurance company that will remain nameless sat with me for some length of time on Wednesday and said, look, we've got tens and tens of thousands of paper applications we have to process by Jan 1, and we don't have enough hours in the day to do it. We've allocated way more resources to that side of our business, the PPACA Obamacare side, and we're freaking out because we just don't know how we're going to make sure these people are covered, and some of them just aren't going to be covered.
Wow.
And that's coming January 1. It's going to happen because they took paper applications, and now the recent news, if you've seen, is now they're telling insurance brokers and insurance companies to take those paper applications and key them into the website, which takes about 90 minutes per application, and that's if the application's clean and legible, guys. Right. These things were faxed, they were emailed, they were copied multiple times. They're not going to be in the system, let alone paid for by the 1st.
Then you add that to the 834 forms or whatever they are that spit out the back end that may or may not be accurate, and if you've not been taking notes on the Armstrong and Getty show through the weeks, by the way,
if you're spitting out the back end, you need health care.
Oh, yeah, wherever you can get it. Charming.
Yeah.
But
delicious.
We haven't even gotten into the question of the millions and millions of people whose their employers are going to dump their plans, et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to cause mucho outrage. This is insane. This may be the greatest governmental train wreck since the Civil War.
And it will mount every month. Every month will get a little bit worse until they pull the plug on this thing or they dramatically repeal chunks of it, which I think is coming.
All right, so we're also overdue. We need to take a quick break, but we're overdue there was an enormous dump of information just before Thanksgiving that was an intentional pre-Thanksgiving dump. A lot of weirdness there, too.
Usually they're post.
And, I'm going to represent a certain coalition of the audience and ask that no more poo jokes, all right? Can we just discuss this like adults? So stay tuned. More with Craig in a moment.
The old PTD, man.
Oh, boy. It's, comes but once a year, huh?
Stay with us. You're listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.